I would wake up feeling every bit of hatred that I, as a Black body, am meant to feel based on the founders of our country and the founders of our education system. I felt every. Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Today, we are discussing this book right here. It's called Original Sins: The Miseducation of Black and Native Children and the Construction of American Racism by Ewing. What I will say is I heard about this book because the author, Ewing, was interviewed on the Stacks podcast back in February.
I remember that.
Yeah, and that episode was amazing. So all y'all, please go back, go to the Stacks podcast to listen to that episode. It's episode number 358 from mid-February of this year of 2025. Plus, the Stacks is just an awesome podcast. Anyway, so if Tracy Thomas ever listens to this, hi, Tracy. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Tracy. I love you. And I'm part of the Patreon. Every once in a while, she'll read off the names of people who are in the Patreon. And my name got read off one time and I heard it.
Oh, that's
Woo!
so cool.
Yeah. And Tracy Thomas is just smart as hell. And she literally reads all the time and talks to authors all the time. Like she's amazing. But anyway, in February, she was interviewing Ewing about this book. Just hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, this is amazing. I need to read this book. Immediately bought the book and then looked up Ewing, found out that she was doing a book tour and she was in Atlanta. So I literally, was like, oh my God, it's right. Oh my God. And it's right there and it's free and this is awesome. So I'm going to go. So I went to the talk here in Atlanta. This was back in March and it was amazing. I mean, Ewing is smart as hell.
And you got us both
Yes.
signed copies.
Yes, and I got both of us signed copies. Where's my sign page? Where did it go? There it is.
There you go.
There it is.
Yay,
So, yay!
signed copies.
Thanks, Eve.
That makes them extra special.
It really does. And so talked to her publicist, had a great time. It was amazing, an amazing talk. Then we're like, oh, we need to read this book and talk about it.
So for you, since you got to meet her and we both heard the podcast before we read the book, did the book live up to all of the hype?
Yes. And in fact, I will say that the book even surpasses the hype because Ewing is such an amazing writer
and researcher.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going. And she's an amazing researcher and she provides the receipts, people.
Oh, did she?
I mean, damn.
Oh, like a quarter of the book.
Yeah, is the notes section and the bibliography. And
yeah.
So this is one of those books where you will read it. It will spark all kinds of stuff in you.
Mm-hmm.
And at least for me, I think this is fair to say that this will happen maybe for most people. It will send you down a rabbit hole and you will then find other books and articles and authors to follow up on. This book will open doors for you for more knowledge, and it will open areas in your brain, and it will make you think about things, and it will more than likely make you feel things and think about your own education and think about the role that education has played in your life. And I don't say any of that lightly. I know I have a tendency to to maybe exaggerate a tad, but I say all of that without any exaggeration whatsoever.
In the little introduction that you said it will spark feelings within you. As you were reading this book, what are some of the major feelings that came up for you?
A lot of sadness.
Me too.
In fact, there were a few days this week where I would read the book before bed and then I wouldn't be able to sleep,
Yeah.
or I didn't sleep very well at all. And I would wake up just feeling the weight of the world and the weight of the world's hate on me.
It's not really a good bedtime story.
It is not. It is
It's
not.
more a read in the morning kind of book.
Yeah, yeah, or even just middle of the day. Like
Yeah.
let yourself wake up nice and slow and easy, then read this book and then
Yeah.
give yourself the rest of the day
This
to
is
just
not
kind of
a
chill.
this
This
is
is
not
not a
a
bedtime
happy
story.
bedtime. No.
No. No, no. In fact, there was a day this week. Actually, there were a couple of days this week at work where I was just, I mean, I was all kinds of out of sorts and in a funk and just, whew, like all up in my feelings, right?
Yeah.
And one day, one of my coworkers was like, "What's going on? Are you okay? What's?" And and I just let the floodgates open and I told her that I was reading this book, reading the specifics about how an entire system was developed specifically to keep me and mine down, and to read the words of the people who created this system. And when I say me and mine, yes, I mean Black people, but I also mean Native Americans, because there's a huge, according to family lore, I don't know, but there is I have a lot of Native American blood. My my maternal grandmother was half Cherokee. Her mother was full Cherokee, according to family lore. So yes, me and mine have been and continue to be thoroughly subjected. And yes, I say all of this about Native American. Do I have an actual tie? Do I know anything culturally other than what I've read in these books? No. So people, please do not come at me. I am not I'm not putting myself out there as any sort of spokesperson for Native Americans. I'm not. I'm just saying that that is part
That
of my background. So,
Yeah, that's one of the things that was most heartbreaking to me about reading the book and surprising to me.
mhm,
I grew up with no what I would describe as no culture. We
mm,
had
mhm,
we had
mhm,
very few significant traditions in our family. One thing we
mhm,
did have is the Easter bunny always put our Easter stuff in our shoes. I
mhm.
think it was a Dutch tradition or something.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense.
But other than that, we never really had any sort of tradition in our family. And to hear you say that your paternal grandmother,
Maternal.
I'm sorry, maternal grandmother was 50%
Mhm,
Native American,
mhm,
and yet you have no tie to it. And my maternal grandmother was 50% German, and I have no tie to it. In reading this book, when Eve talks about what is white and how
yeah.
white was this thing, and then these other immigrants came and they got assimilated, and part of the whole
They were forced to assimilate.
that's the part of my history that I didn't know and understand.
Mhm.
I'm like, where's the German? Where's the Dutch in my family? Nobody speaks German.
Because they were forced by way of our education system
Right.
to assimilate because the children are brought in at a young age, and they talk about this in the book, people. We're not making this shit up. And like I
No.
said, Eve Ewing has receipts, and they are all up in this book.
But did you know that? Like I think I had some vague knowledge that school systems assimilated Native Americans,
Right. Right.
but I didn't have any knowledge about the assimilation of cultures to become what is known as white.
I think I had like you said, I had some sort of vague idea that this sort of stuff happened because if you have watched any documentary or read anything about the forming of our country and
But
Ellis
all
Island and all this stuff, then you know, then maybe you have an idea of, wait a minute, at the beginning, the Irish were considered, "Oh, the dirty Irish, they didn't
sure,
fit, they were just bleh." And then fast forward a number of decades or generations, and then they're white as opposed to Irish. You know what I
sure.
mean? So, but I didn't know the specifics.
Exactly.
I
Sure.
didn't know the
Like
specific, and we're not taught that shit in school.
sure, we know all this vagueness, but did we realize that it was actually this plan, like through
Mm-mm. I don't think I did.
school, through what we ate at lunch, what we were served as food,
Mhm.
the games on the playground, how
Right.
all of these
The
things?
Pledge of Allegiance.
Well, that part kind of makes sense.
Well, yeah, but it never occurred to
Me
me
neither, that we were
that that
getting.
was part of an entire indoctrination plot.
So this thought occurred to me while I was reading this book that may be out there.
Mhm,
It might be out there. Perhaps one of the reasons racism is such a hard thing for white people to deal with is almost in fact some bit of, this is just a thought that occurred to me, people, I that is some bit of jealousy about a culture that still exists because
maybe,
white people are just white people. There's
right.
no,
Because all the culture's been beat out of y'all.
yeah, because
Well, not
where's, no, I
beat,
know,
but yeah.
this is how I was feeling when I was reading this book. Because where's my German ancestry? Why don't I speak a lick of a word of German? Right? Like,
Mhm,
there's
mhm,
nothing in my family
mhm.
that, there's no one there.
Yeah,
Like, I don't even know this history. And
yeah.
yes, we were raised on this idea of the beautiful melting pot of the United States, right? And
Mhm.
yeah, I like that. I like that vision. It makes me very happy that we would be welcoming of all cultures and peoples. But that's not the truth of it. We
It's not the
weren't
truth of it at
welcoming we
all.
weren't welcoming of all these cultures and foods. We squashed all that stuff out and
Yeah,
made us all the same,
yeah, yeah. It
bland and tasteless and
yeah.
cultureless. And that was my woe as a young person without even realizing it. I had a woe about culturelessness.
Mhm.
And maybe that is one of the reasons why racism runs deep, is because we have no culture.
On that same vein, one of the things that I think exists in racism is maybe a jealousy or an anger toward
An
uh
anger we don't
toward
even understand.
right, toward black people who have we have managed to hold on to and reclaim our history and our culture. Same for native cultures. They they have managed under such horrible conditions
How? It's
and
unbelievable.
horrible acts of hatred and violence have managed to hold on to their culture of their particular tribes
That's what I'm saying.
and then to relearn like to 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 relearn all the things that were beaten out of them and tortured out of them and stolen from them, and then you all you know and also other cultures and peoples that come here and they manage to hold on to some of
That
who they are.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That I think maybe some of the angst of why it's so hard for white people to look at racism, to be like,
Mm.
they're more like, I'm not a racist. We all have bias. We're all, in some ways, I believe, and people probably get mad at me, but I believe we're all racist in some ways.
We all
Doesn't,
have bias. Everybody
doesn't,
has a bias toward or against something.
doesn't mean we're out there actively participating in racism, but we all live in racist structures,
Mhm.
like school, for example,
Yeah.
what we're talking
Yeah.
about here.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the reasons why it's so hard for us to look at it.
It's all just squashed.
Yeah.
It's all squashed. We're and not only is it squashed, but then there's all this prettification of it,
Yes.
like, "Oh, no, we're not trying to strip away your culture. We're just trying to make you an American, and we're just trying to make you patriotic."
Exactly.
Huh.
And maybe there was some, I don't know, some need for that in the beginning in a society that I don't fucking know, man. It just actually, it brought me to a new level of understanding. I guess I didn't even really ever question it.
Why would we?
Right, right,
Because,
right,
again, we've talked about this before, it's the water that we're swimming in,
right, right, right.
and our culture generally does not encourage critical thinking, questioning authority,
Right.
or,
Ooh,
or even thinking deeply beyond the surface of any topic.
that questioning authority is another thing that came up for me when I was reading this book.
Mhm.
By the way, you notice I have 2 copies. So, if one of our readers would like a copy, contact me. This one's mine, but that one is up for someone to read. No, remember when
Hopefully,
my
your tabbed one is the one that's
yeah, this
autographed.
this one's it is.
Okay, good.
So, remember when my daughter got in the car accident and I
Yeah,
said that I don't know why, but I freaked out about authority. I freaked out when the police showed up for the car accident. I freaked out when I was talking to insurance. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I thought I was going to get arrested and in trouble. And
yeah,
when I was reading this and it talked about our punishment culture,
yeah.
I was like, oh, no wonder. No wonder I'm always fearful. This was drilled into me since I was a child in school.
Mhm.
Like, oh, if you don't follow the rules of society, and I was trying to follow the rules, I just didn't know what they were. Like,
Yeah.
I'd never been in a car accident before. I didn't know.
Well, and there's this whole idea of not just respect authority, but fear it. And I think that has a little bit to do with the, you know, the fact that a certain version of Christianity like underlies so much about our history and our culture. And the version of Christianity is uh, you know, be fearful of God. It's this vengeful God. Do not question God. That whole thing.
Yes,
And I honestly, I think that has a lot to do with it.
I do too. But as I was reading this book, I was like, oh, according to society, I'm supposed to be fearful of this stuff. They did
Absolutely,
their job the way that they meant to do it.
absolutely.
And I was taken aback by that actually.
Hmm. Hmm.
All right, a couple things that I really
Yes.
wanted to talk about.
Okay.
On page 11,
Hmm.
this is very early in the book.
Right.
Eve describes the 3 pillars of American racism. And I think
Right.
this is a very important starting point for the whole book.
Absolutely.
The first being the premise of intellectual inferiority.
Hmm.
And this is the idea that Black people, Native people are less intelligent.
Hmm.
The second is,
Less intelligent than white people.
right, this mix of white people that aren't even all the
Yeah,
same
they
white
aren't all the
people.
same. They're all
It's
from other places. But anywho,
it's so bizarre to me. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
number 2, the second is discipline and punishment.
Mhm.
And this is the idea that Black and Native people have unruly bodies, that we need to impose
It's all about control.
control and rules, etc. And I think, even though it isn't blatantly said in here, I think women also,
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
to a certain degree, not to the
Mhm.
same extent, but women have also been controlled.
Mhm.
And the third is economic subjugation, the idea
Yeah.
that Black and Native people cannot be self-contained agents of their own labor.
Mhm.
Capitalism.
Nor can we make choices about how we use that labor, benefit from it, or share the benefits with our communities.
Yep. And then in school,
Mhm.
the way that white children were traditionally taught, or are still traditionally taught,
Mhm.
Black children and Native children. And Native children, the shocking part to me was for them just to disappear. Eve even goes and describes how the government at the time researched it and figured it was cheaper to assimilate Native kids than to kill them. It was
Yeah.
actually more cost effective
Mhm.
to take the children away from their families,
Yeah.
assimilate them. And then for Black families, we needed to teach them to be workers, slaves of sort, but no, we
Right.
can't call them slaves anymore.
Yeah. We're calling them laborers.
Oh, laborers,
And
laborers.
to only aspire to a certain level. Don't get too aspirational. Don't have too many dreams. Hey, how about just don't have any dreams at all? Just get about to here, and that's about it. Like all you can get to is, and no shade against these vocations, but this is as far as what the education system was meant for us to be, meaning us,
Well,
meaning Black people, of like laborers, meaning mechanic, plumber, busboy, dishwasher, porter on a train, bus driver. Like literally, like don't even think you're gonna be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or a professor. You can
no,
be a teacher
maybe.
up to a certain
If
point.
you're teaching children of the same color.
Right. And if you're only teaching them a little bit, don't think you're going to teach these kids anything about, oh, read this book and develop aspirations. And oh, let's be imaginative and work with our imagination and develop it and grow and dream. No, 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 no. You can't do that.
Well, Raquel, somebody's got to mow the lawns.
No, there you go. But it's
So
always,
that was actually
yeah, yeah,
said in this
yeah,
book by
yeah.
somebody.
But
As
but it's
a
always those people that are going to be doing it.
Well, yes. One of the most interesting things of the book was when she got into the discussion about that,
Mhm.
about when people are using these three, what did we call them?
The three pillars.
The three pillars of American racism, to actually defend that, to
Mhm.
say, oh, somebody's got to mow the lawn. So it can't be the white person, it's got to
No.
be the Black person or the Native person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why is that? And people would they would question these things and be like, "Oh, I'm just asking the question.
Right.
I'm not a racist. I don't mean anything by it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying somebody's got to mow the lawn. Who's it going to be?"
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. So I just want to back up a little bit because Eve starts the book talking about what you think the role of education is. How, before reading this book, or maybe even after reading the book as well now, but how did you answer that question for yourself when you first started the book?
Okay, this is really a fraught question for me because
Mhm.
every single person in my family except for me is an educator, right?
Oh,
So my mom was a teacher, my stepfather was a professor, my dad is a teacher of teachers, my niece is a teacher. We're all
right.
teachers, except for me. I didn't go into education, but I subbed.
Mhm.
And do you remember that week or 2 weeks of subbing? I didn't do very much. I was really uncomfortable in the school system.
Yeah, I remember that.
It felt very militaristic. Is that a word?
Mhm.
It felt like, boys, keep your arms down, keep your hands to yourself, your eyes forward, don't look, don't smile, don't speak. I was very uncomfortable with that. Before that, before my subbing, I put my kids in public schools because public schools was the right thing to do. I was taught that that is number one, we support a public education because my
Right.
family was public education, and I thought it was their best route to education, income, wealth. I just believed it was their best way to learn and move forward in our society. I was raised in a family where I never even questioned whether I was going to college.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Yeah.
born, bred, and raised to go to college.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I never made that decision. I never
Mhm.
didn't make that decision. I never said, no, I'm not going to go.
Right.
I could have for sure.
Mhm.
I guess in some ways, I did believe the premise of this book, the anti premise of this book, that education was the big equalizer.
Mhm.
That if we went to school, we studied hard, any of us could be anything. We bootstrap stories, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How about you? What did you think?
Well, I and maybe our generation is the last generation to have this because I hear different things all the time now, but I am of the generation of you go to school to get ahead,
Yeah.
right? That is your because
Ticket. My mom said it was your
that
ticket.
exactly, like, that was I repeat Eve's phrase of the great equalizer, but even with that notion, there's still the idea that, "Ooh, it's not gonna be equal, but in order to get as close as you can, you have got to be educated. You have got to get an education, and you don't stop with high school. You have to go to college." And in my family, that also includes grad school of some sort. That was the model that I had. As I've said on the show many times, my mom was a professor. She had her master's, wanted to get her PhD and or go to medical school, but decided she and my dad made the decision that she would put him through medical school and then he would put her through either medical school and or to get her PhD. Of course that didn't happen. But
Let's not fall for that
yeah,
anymore,
that's like,
ladies.
yeah, ladies don't fall for that shit. Although my dad wasn't involved in us in the raising of me and my brother, there was the example of, hey, your dad's a doctor, mom's a professor. Here you go. That's just what you do. Although my brother didn't like college and it was just like, yeah, peace out. Which, that's fine. College isn't for everybody. I knew deep, deep, deep down, like maybe even on a cellular level, that the only way for me to advance at all or to achieve any level of success or anything resembling financial independence was to go and get an education and to go beyond just high school. And in order to get into a good college, you follow the rules, you do the things, you learn the stuff, you do well on tests,
You play in the system.
you play in the system, right? You listen to your teachers, you don't cause a ruckus, you don't get kicked out of school, you don't get sent to the principal's office, like all of these things. Just focus on being a good student. Be a good little robot.
Yeah.
And that's what
My
I did.
It reminds me that I hadn't thought about this in a long time, but my mom said, "You learn the system and you play in it."
Mhm.
That's what
Mhm.
she taught me. She was like, "Yeah, I don't like everything that goes on either." She's like, "I
Mhm.
hate it, but you learn the system and you play in it because that's what all we can do."
Yep. Yeah.
Man, that's
Yeah.
fucked. And I didn't realize how much I mean, I can't say I loved school. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I love school."
I loved school
A lot of
for a whole host of reasons, but
yeah,
yeah, I loved school.
a lot of people do. I can't say that I loved it, but when I went back and subbed, I actually was so uncomfortable. I
Wow.
was so uncomfortable in the school system that I realized all the reasons why I didn't like the school system. It is
Mhm.
inherently flawed.
Yeah.
And for all the reasons in this book and many, many, many more.
Mhm. One thing that kept coming up for me reading this book, and Eve does a really good job of talking about not just the history of our school system, but what it's like now to some extent. What stood out for me is I don't have kids, so I don't know what the school system is like now for kids. Like, I mean, I learn certain things from hearing friends of mine with kids talk about things. Like, I have a friend who, just retired from being a principal for, I don't know, 30 years. I mean, a goddamn long time. Friends who have kids from of varying ages, from, itty bitty to graduating from college. And so I hear things like, "Oh, they don't teach cursive writing anymore, so nobody knows how to nobody knows what a fucking signature is." They don't use, chalkboards anymore, that it's now like whiteboards, right? Maybe, and maybe some even don't use those anymore, I
It's
don't know.
not the whiteboard is actually through your computer. You're writing on your computer and it comes up on the whiteboard in front of class. I had to learn
Yeah.
that as a sub too.
Yeah, and see,
Right?
and I don't know any of that. So
I wouldn't have known that except I had to go in and figure that out.
yeah, so it kept coming up for me, like, what the hell? Like, what is it like for kids now? And do
It's not great.
Yeah, yeah, and then the whole thing of public school versus private school. I mean, I got lucky in that going to public school. I mean, aside from, undergrad, which was a private school, but I went to public school the whole time, just like you did. And I kept thinking, okay, yeah, most of the schools that I went to, like junior high and high school, were great. I mean, those were really, really good quality schools, at least when we were both there. But, like, my earlier schools, I don't know necessarily if they were good schools. I think they were, but I also benefited from the fact that I was raised by an educator
Right.
who
Same.
also was like, "Okay, and then you're gonna do this, and you're also gonna do this, and you're not gonna stop with that. You're gonna go
An,
beyond this school book and read something else."
an educator, both of us had
Mhm.
mothers who were educators who knew the system.
Yeah.
And so they could make sure that we were successful within the system.
Mhm.
My
Mhm.
mom said you figure out the system and you just play by the rules. Doesn't
Yep.
mean you have to like them.
Exactly.
I think about some things that happened in school that were not great. I
Mhm.
mean, for example, you look at our school in Kalamazoo, we had a a pretty biracial school. There were lots of black children and there were lots of white children. I don't know
Right,
if there
and
were
then there were people from other
ha-
races that were there. I mean, yeah, I mean,
handfuls, maybe
hand
not a lot,
not a lot, but there were some.
but because we lived in a college town,
Exactly. Yeah,
and
we lived in a college town.
so there were people from other parts of the world in our community with us. Not a
Mhm.
lot, but there were, so we were exposed.
Right.
I lived in a neighborhood that was pretty biracial,
Mhm.
so I had lots of friends of different ethnicities in my neighborhood.
Mhm.
That being said, I hear stories of how our lunchrooms were segregated. I don't actually remember that.
I don't remember that either, but I will be perfectly honest, I don't I vaguely remember what our junior high school lunchroom looked like. I don't I have no memory of all of our high school,
Me neither.
lunchroom
I
at
think
all.
I think
No
it's
memory at all.
possible that we ate lunch together. I don't know.
Maybe, maybe.
Like,
And, like,
I have no
I
memory.
remember the food. I remember the food
I
because
didn't ever
I'd be
eat the
like,
food.
"Oh, it's tater tot day or pizza day." Like, I remember that kind of stuff because I'm food motivated people, just in case y'all didn't know. And I like to cook and I like food and I like to eat. But, like, I don't remember any of the I don't remember who I sat with. I don't
I just feel like
remember if
friends
I
just
was
hung out.
nervous about it. I don't remember any of
See,
that.
I feel like if it was a big deal, like we read in these young adult readers, like if we had had those nerves walking into the, we would remember that.
Or we blocked it out.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't remember that. I just don't recall it at all. And
Yeah.
we were both involved in sports. And
Yeah.
so it was more like you hung out with your team a lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
that is maybe part of it is when you get involved in sports, it's just it's a team. It's different.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think maybe that was it. Maybe it was just that we spent all of our free time with the other kids on our team.
I don't know. On page 13, she talks about what this book is about. And this
Mhm.
really spoke to me.
Mhm.
She said, "This book is intended to be descriptive, not prescriptive. It's an invitation into a conversation, a tool for you to mark up and lend out and disagree with and share and highlight and bend out of shape, especially if you are a Black person, a Native person, an educator, a caregiver, a student, a person who has always felt like this school thing is just feels a little off. That's me, that's me, that's me, or all of the above. The absolute best scenario is if you can find somebody else or several somebodies to read it with, use it for collective work if you can. As you read these accounts of what has been, remember that we are all architects of what is to come.
Mhm.
How does this knowledge of history shape the present and the future that you want to build?"
Yeah.
This is the precipice I find that I feel like we are on.
Mhm.
We, right now, with the political landscape, with ICE and Trump and everybody, not everybody, with ICE and Trump trying to make an other yet once again,
Yeah.
what is it we actually want to build? And I do, our author is from Chicago. My
Yeah.
niece teaches in Chicago. ICE stages in front of their school every fucking morning.
Mhm.
And the teachers are out there, the educators are out there, the parents are out there. They bought whistles, they bought hats, they're trying to protect students. And yet that stuff has to creep into the soul of the school regardless.
Mhm.
This history, this is why we have to read. I am like preaching to the choir here, I know. But we have to read so that we don't continue to do this same thing.
Yeah. You saying that reminds me, last weekend, I went to the Decatur Book Festival here, right outside Atlanta. For people who don't know, Decatur is a small town right outside Atlanta, sort of a suburb, and they have a book festival every year. They've been doing it for 20 years now, or maybe 25 years, I forget. One of the speakers was Stacey Abrams.
Yay,
Yeah, yeah,
Stacy!
because she has a new book coming out. It's one of her fiction books. Of course, Stacey, being who she is, she's always going to talk about politics, right? Because it's the water we swim in. You have to talk about politics now. You may not do politics, but politics is doing you,
The
right?
political is personal.
Exactly. And so one of the questions, well, the question that I asked her was, what do you think this world is going to look like when all of this nightmarish bullshit is over?
Yeah, what'd she say?
And I'm paraphrasing.
Okay, cool.
I can send you the recording because I actually recorded her answer, so I'll send it to you later. But the gist of it is that we get we get the world that we deserve. We have to do the work and create what we want this world to look like.
Mm,
If we want it to be different, we have to work toward that.
mm,
And she even said, stuff that we've said here on the show, that there are many, 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 many different ways to help create and usher in the world that we want, right? If you are not someone who goes to protests, that's fine. Find something else. Find another way to help usher in this new existence, right? So that's just what that makes me think, is that we have to take some ownership over what we want the world to be and what we want our role in it to be. And that's going to include reading more than what is just assigned to us in school. Go beyond that, right? You know, read other books. You know,
Start
like
with start with reading this book.
yeah, start with reading this one. And like I said in the beginning, this book sent me down a rabbit hole.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't tell you how many books are on my book wish list now because of reading this book.
Oh,
One of which is one that talks about native cultures and what they were like before the settlers got here.
mm,
And I can't wait to read that because I know so little
same.
about native cultures now and before the settlers got here. And I think I even mentioned this in some of the books that we read, like the absolutely true story of a part-time Indian. Reading that, I was like, oh, huh, okay. This is what it looks like uh contemporary uh, in a
Now,
contemporary, yeah, and now this is what it looks like to live as a Native American. This is one example, right?
yes.
And it's slightly different from, you know, the shit that we see that's just sort of spoon fed to us.
Or it's slightly different than as she speaks about in the book that we always talk about what Native Americans used to be. Like they
Right,
don't
like
exist anymore.
right. And in fact, oh, that was one thing
Yeah.
that really shook me when I was listening to the Stax interview when Tracy Thomas was talking to Eve Ewing, and Tracy actually made the comment because Tracy's from California. The way that they learned about Native Americans out in California is different than, you know, the way that we learned about Native Americans in, say, Michigan, right? But
Thanksgiving is all I remember.
right, yeah, Thanksgiving and
Columbus.
Columbus, yeah, and you know, the blankets. But I didn't really learn about the blankets and the blankets being diseased until
No,
doing
they
some
didn't
more
tell
reading
us
on my own.
that
They
till
didn't
we
tell
were
us that in school. I didn't learn
no.
that until much later. Tracy Thomas actually made the comment that she thought as a kid that Native Americans had all been, you know, killed off, that they didn't exist anymore. Because and she
Genocided.
right. And Eve makes the point in the book that Native Americans are always talked about in past tense.
Exactly. Exactly. And it
Fucking
makes us
ridiculous.
believe that they don't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's ridiculous. We are fed a certain story.
Propaganda
Exactly. Yes, we are propagandized and indoctrinated
continuously.
continuously.
Continuously. And the propaganda continues.
Oh,
It's like it's everywhere and it's in our
yeah.
school system. And I was very uncomfortable in our school system. And in her final chapters, she goes into what can we do differently, right?
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
do we want to bring? Which led me to look up something that she wrote. This is interesting. It came out February 3rd, 2025,
Yeah,
called
I think I read some of that, yeah.
called Trump's Reign of Terror on Schools and How We Fight Back.
Mhm.
Really interesting stuff because she also talks about her hometown of Chicago.
Mm.
She says, when news circulated that a school in my hometown of Chicago had turned away government agents at the door, same thing happened in my niece's school.
Mhm.
I received urgent messages from well intentioned friends outside the city. Among these smart, caring, dedicated people whom I love and trust dearly, there was a surfeit, I don't know that word,
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
surfeit of panic and discussion more or less ended there. No one asked if the kids were okay or what it might look like to support those teachers or those parents or that block. No one asked, how can I help? I
Mhm.
point this out not to them, but to say that this government is, in all things, nudging us toward responses that limit our capacity for collective action.
Mhm.
In precisely the moments when such action is most urgent, the trick is to exhaust us as efficiently as possible. Dread consumes us as we ruminate on the intentions of the people and state actors that seem utterly out of our control. This is all done on purpose. And then she
Mhm.
talks about in the book and here about what we can actually do. And most of
Yeah.
it is not in the school system.
No. No.
It's in community and
Mhm.
how we work together. And
Right.
she talks about braiding.
Yeah. Yeah. About which I like the way that she talked about braiding in that it's sections coming together and they still maintain their integrity. Each section is still there and identifiable, but the sections come together to create a new thing,
Yes.
right? And that we can't just rely on the school system. Yeah, it would be great if we could just like up in the whole system and start all over, right? That would
We
be great. But A, we don't have time for that. B, that is going to take so much and we won't see the result of it. If it can happen, we won't see the result of it for maybe not in our lifetime.
so what do we do?
So, like she was saying, you have to take some accountability to teach yourself. Go outside of your school, go into your community, go into other community, read about other communities, right? Help each other. We have to come together. It's not just, oh, I learned this thing in school and then be done with it. Like go beyond what you're taught. Look behind the curtain for fuck's sake.
What about the words that she used a lot in abolition and land back?
I understand what's behind those. I don't know what those look like in reality. And she
Right.
even talks about that. She's like, I don't have all the answers. I
No,
can
no, but none of
she's
us do.
like, I can just give you some ideas and tell you what I want the world to look like and I want us to work together. Like she says that, but she's like, I don't have the answers.
Right.
But in presenting the idea of braiding and the idea of abolition and the idea of land back and the idea of reparations and the idea of all of these things,
Minimum income.
minimum income, yes, if we don't
Healthcare for all.
exactly, yeah, oh, free education, that'd be nice, free college. If we don't at least utilize our imagination to come up with ideas about how the world can look, then we're literally just robots. And
Mm.
that's part of what she talks about this throughout the book that one of the things that's missing from the education system is imagination
On purpose.
on purpose.
On purpose.
Imagination is seen as a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Part of the problem is we're kept so fucking busy like working 13 jobs at the same time, trying to fight ice, trying to fight patriarchy, being fucking exhausted, trying to pay all these damn bills. I mean, all of this, we're so exhausted
Yeah.
and everything is so chaotic that to have the time to use your imagination, yeah, there's some privilege in that.
A lot of privilege in that.
We have to, even if it's just a few seconds before you fall asleep at night, you use dream the world that you want to exist.
I also think we have to opt out of certain things. So she talks a
Yeah.
lot about in this book about with both the Black population and the Native population of
Mhm.
of the government purposefully individualizing them
Mhm.
so that they would have separate houses, separate mortgages, separate need for purchases.
Right. Yeah, not living in community.
Not right. And so here we are house by house by house by house. Every house has a lawnmower. Every house has a shovel. Every house has a car. Every house has a wash machine. And yeah, that's great. That's progress and everything. That's fucking capitalism.
Yeah.
But if we lived in communities where we had a shovel that was in our shared shed and we had a lawnmower that was in our shared shed, we wouldn't all have to work to have a lawnmower and a shovel.
Mm-hmm.
And these types of things, I think this is what I'm looking for in my future, is more ways to opt out of the system.
Yeah.
To opt out. Do I actually need that? And part of that for me has been kind of bittersweet, because one of the ways I have realized to opt out is to opt out of some of the holidays. Like stop with the
Mm-hmm.
Christmas shopping, stop with the celebration of Thanksgiving, stop with the, however, those are the only cultural pieces I have. But those cultural pieces are tied to capitalism in
Mm-hmm.
such a strong way that they make me think I have this culture that I actually don't have.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
like
so
Thanksgiving itself.
yeah, Thanksgiving is bullshit.
Yeah, but we all like to
At least the way that it is
portray.
presented to us.
I mean, we all like,
We can choose to to celebrate and give meaning to it in different ways.
but how do we as a culture, I know these are just things I think about. How do we actually like, because education is good. The systems around education in our country are hierarchical, they're punitive, they're racist,
Mm-hmm.
they're segmented, they're they're
Very.
they're also misogynistic as well. It isn't education that's the problem, it's our system of education in
Yeah.
this world,
Yeah.
and our systems of policing, and our systems of capitalism, and our systems of hierarchy, and all of these systems. So how do we opt out of the system and still be a part of a community? And that's what I struggle with.
Right. So I would turn that around a little bit, and I would maybe encourage you and anybody else who's listening, like I said, define it for yourself. And one thing, it like specific to your example, Jennifer, you're talking about how you don't know that much about, your German heritage or your Dutch heritage. Maybe do a little research. Doesn't have to be a lot. I'm not saying you need to go,
That's
down a
exactly what my
complete
that's
rabbit
exactly what
hole.
my daughter said to me when we were talking about this. She's like, "Could you do a little research, Mom? Why don't you take a German class? Why don't you
Well,
learn some German?"
there you go. We took German in high school, woman.
I know, but I cheated. I didn't
See,
actually learn anything.
I didn't. I actually
Sprechen,
would learn shit, and then I would go home and I would
sprechen Sie
teach it to my
Deutsch?
mom. Yeah, but
See, me neither.
not anymore.
I
It's
don't.
been 40 years.
Me no
But
sprechen Sie Deutsch either.
Nah. But I would, I'm Biscuit. But I would go home and I would teach my mom stuff, and I would try to teach my brother, but he would just walk away. And I would try to teach my mom something, and I would try to teach them like stuff like how to tell time or how to say hello or whatever. And I remember, and my mom would pretend to pay attention to what I was doing, and then she'd be like, "Uh-huh," and then she was just out, right?
No, but
But
you're
that's what I would do. That's the student that I was.
no, but you're absolutely right.
Right. But what I'm saying
Let's
was good, maybe look up,
ancestry,
Dutch and German
culture.
holiday traditions,
Yep.
and then maybe incorporate a little bit of that into, the next holiday, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. On page, that's the last thing I'm going to say before I go.
Okay.
On page 262,
Mhm.
she says, all the way to the bottom, in this country, schools as institutions have never been for us. In their foundations, they are places for Black and Indigenous personhood to be met with denial, disappearance, and repression. Places where young people learn the language of a settler society built on racist hierarchies.
Yep.
That's a problem for Black and Indigenous youth. In some instances, it has destroyed their lives. But it's also a problem for anybody who doesn't want to be complicit in the ongoing maintenance of a violent social order.
Yeah.
It is an inherently violent social order.
Mhm. Yeah, and for people who are very literal, violence doesn't have to it isn't always physical,
I
people, okay?
felt the violence in that school system.
Right, there is a type of violence that is psychic, and that is emotional, and mental, and it beats down your fucking soul.
Yeah.
And when we were just talking about imagination and the fact that imagination is not celebrated, it is not fostered, it is not respected necessarily in the education system. I mean, maybe there's some pockets where, somebody will have a professor who, fostered that in them, whatever. Okay, you were lucky, right? But for the most part, creativity and imagination and anything outside the box not celebrated in our education system. And
We don't celebrate the artists until they die.
exactly. And I will tell you, I underlined and wrote in this book, like all the others that we've read, but there are too many things in this book that I've underlined that I have not done what I normally do, which is what you've been doing, is referring to specific passages in the book. And that's not because I didn't like the book. It's not because I didn't read the book. It's partly because this book, and maybe it's because of the time that we're living in or what, I don't know, but this book hit me so hard that it's difficult for me in some ways to talk about the book because I'm not kidding when I say that there were days that I would wake up while reading this book, and this was not Eve Ewing's intention, so I'm not like, this is nothing against her writing. I mean, I think she's brilliant. This book is brilliant, but I would wake up feeling every bit of hatred that I, as a Black body, am meant to feel based on the founders of our country and the founders of our education system. I felt every fucking bit of that hatred. And I have been feeling fear that I don't normally feel. So, that said, read this book, people. Read the book. Go beyond the book. Look at her bibliography. If you're like, I don't know where to start, look at the bibliography. Look at her notes. I mean,
She lays it out.
she lays it all out. This woman is nothing if not a consummate educational professional.
Oh
This
yeah.
woman is amazing. If you're like, oh, that can't be true, maybe she's just making them up. Okay, look at the receipts. People, she gives you the receipts. Go look it up, read it for yourself. If you're like, oh, I don't know. Okay, fine, fine. Look at what she's presenting.
I think we can look at today to know that what she is presenting is the truth. Where we are today is because of where we've been and
Mhm.
because we haven't reckoned with it.
God damn, I'm not gonna be able to find the specific point because I didn't tab it so that I would specifically come to it. But when she talks about, and this is another thing, this is why it's really, 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 really important that we talk about this, because she talks about how, especially around capitalism and intergenerational wealth and the wealth gap and the role that education plays in that, where and the difference between going to a public school and going to a private school and all that. She goes into all that, and she's like, people don't realize that the gaps are as big as they are because we don't talk about them.
Yep.
Talk about this shit, people, please. You have, if you are not comfortable talking about specifically what you make or what your parents made or that your parents were able to help you pay for college, okay, fine, fine, don't, but at least read about this whole phenomenon so that you are not living under the false impression that everybody has it the same way. We don't. We don't.
No.
Even if you take like a black person of a certain financial level and a white person at the same financial level, okay, just on the surface, you think, oh, yeah, 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 they're fine. They're exactly the same. No, because guess what? That black family didn't have the intergenerational wealth coming from above, and they probably are also taking care of other people. So their money is going to places that the white family's money may not have to go. Talk about things, ask questions, read the books, please educate yourself. If you only pick this book up just to learn that and just to look at her bibliography, then fine, do that. But the world is not what we're taught that it is. There's so much more to it. And these things, we're not taught all this in school.
Not
We're
even
not.
close. We're actually taught quite the opposite in school.
Exactly. Exactly. We have to take it upon ourselves to be accountable for our own learning.
I'm really glad that you picked the book. It was a tough read emotionally,
Mhm,
clearly. It
mhm.
wasn't really a tough read in other ways. Like it's a totally accessible book for people.
Oh, it is so well written. Eve
Yeah,
Ewing
brilliant.
is a brilliant woman. She's a brilliant writer. She's an amazing researcher. I mean,
Yeah,
she backs shit up like over and over and over, and she backs up with more backup. Like,
yeah,
like she's, I'm
yeah.
not kidding. She has the
Even
receipts.
even to buy the book just to read the quotes by the
Mhm.
people who formed our country, even though we kind of knew these things, it's kind of shocking.
It is so, and that was one of the things that really got me. The first section of the book where she's going into all the detail and all the history,
It's very shocking.
it is so shocking, and people were just like, "Here we go. Here's my hatred just right out here in the open. I don't see these people as being human." Ta-da! Like, just unabashed racism and hatred and dehumanizing
And
practices and thoughts
and
and
that's the
yeah.
shadow. That is the shadow of our country. And if we do not fully bring it into the light, it will continue to be the shadow of our country.
Mhm.
And people like Eve are bringing it into the light. Thank you, Eve.
Yes. Yes. Eve, thank you.
And thanks,
Thank you.
Raquel, for going to the book, whatever book signing, and finding the book and bringing it to our attention and making us read it because it was not an easy thing to read
Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably harder for you than for me for some obvious reasons. But
Yeah.
I also feel stripped of my, I actually, for me, it was like, oh, that's why I feel that way.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
But also, like, how disgusting are our forefathers? Like,
Oh my god.
we need to admit that shit. We need to
Yeah.
admit it. Let's try to let's let's do better.
People need to understand that knowing the dark parts of our history does not mean that we don't love our country, and it doesn't mean that we are not patriotic and
No,
blah
we
blah blah.
we do it
We
because we do love our country.
exactly, and because we want it to be better
We want it to be with liberty and justice for all.
for all. Yes, we want this country to live up to the promise, the spirit of that promise, not just the like, oh, we're gonna say this, but we only made it for a couple people. No, no, no. We want this country to live up to the spirit of that promise. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend.
Or you could leave us a comment and a 5-star review, or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks, everybody.